reducing, they're getting rid of their nuclear weapons. But it's still, the study shows the Russians usually don't tell the truth. They end up, if they have 30, they say 3. If they have 20, they say 2. So you add it up, they're much more than us. So we look at the map, we say, well, if north of Iran, 2,000 miles border with the Russia, the most sophisticated country, the most powerful, one of the most powerful nations on earth, and one of the most armed nations in the world, would you as a neighbor like to have a bomb to create a balance between you and them? If you live in one of these complex apartments or you live in Belknap and your neighbor has all these bazookas and all these tanks around his house, would you like to go to the local shop and get a gun? I mean, just create little balance between these two forces, these two neighbors. Okay. Then we look at east of Iran. There are 2 countries in east of Iran that they both are nuclear powers. The first is Pakistan, which has a border with Iran, and next to that is what? India, arch enemies, and they've been going at it and so forth. You know, recently I attended a program in Trinity University, and a gentleman who was talking about the religion Islam and the modern time, and he was from University of Pennsylvania, and he was from Pakistan. He was born in Pakistan. He said something that boggled my mind. He said, you know what? Who's going to be danger in the near the world is going to be a country of Pakistan, because by year 2030, Pakistan will be 4th or 5th largest country on earth as far as the population goes. They have minimum or zero resources, and they have lots of nuclear bombs. There's a talk that they have developed between 200 to 400 nuclear warheads, the military government. And as you know, they are fueling these Talibans and creating enormous difficulty with the U.S. government. Remember, at one time, most of us in the U.S., we thought that bin Laden is in some cave eating rats, and my God, he was in Pakistan living in this compound, looked like a palace, looked like John Hagee's house in Dominion, and all those things, and so forth. He had maids. I mean, come on, that's how wrong we are really thinking, because I was like, said this bin Laden doesn't deserve anywhere good to live. And everybody said, oh, he's in some cave, he's in some bats. No, he was next to the military, academy in Pakistan. The Pakistani government was what? Basically supporting him and giving protection. So when you look at east of Iran, 2 countries have bombs. North of Iran, Russia, they have a bomb. Now we look at southern Iran. Southern Iran is Persian Gulf, Oman, and eventually Indian Ocean. And I'm sure you have heard that U.S. carriers are up there, isn't it or not? You know, regularly we have 1 or 2 aircraft carriers are up there. The study shows the United States have these bombers, and some of those bombers carry what? Short-range nuclear missiles. Not for use, but just in case, if there is a point. So U.S. forces in south of Iran, they do have the capability and the weapons in their arsenal. And then if you look at the southwest of Iran, it's a country of what? Israel, that to this day, they have denied they have a bomb, they never talk about it, but I was reading recently that they have up to 400 nuclear warheads that they have developed since 1950s and 60s. And sometimes I myself and my colleagues argue over how the Israelis attained or got the hold of these nuclear weapons. In my opinion, the U.S. government knew about it, but we didn't do anything about it. Because they're our allies, they're our close friends, and so forth in these matters. Then you look at the west of Iran, northwest of Iran, and it's a country of Turkey, one of the great civilizations. And if you did not know, the United States has what? Several bases there. And the study shows some of those bases, inside those bases, U.S. have those jet fighters that they carry again what? Short-range missiles with them. And they have a nuclear warhead. So you look at the map, you see that Iran is surrounded by the countries that all have what? Nuclear nuclear weapon, just a bomb. And if you were living in that neighborhood, would you like to have a bomb to create a balance? Think about it. Just in case. If every neighbor has a bomb capabilities or they're involved in some kind of nuclear weapons, would you like to be equal? So let's talk about equal rights. So why not? Iranian government says, I'm surrounded by these countries, they all have it, there are possibilities that they could use against me, so I should have it to create a parity, to create a balance of power, to minimize this danger of that they could say, well, Iran is not nuclear, so we could go in and cause trouble for them and so forth. And that is one of the major reasons the Iranian government wants to have, to create a balance of power. And in my opinion, when you look at the real politics, you could understand why it's reasonable for a country that to have a bomb if the surrounding neighbors have it and they're not friendly with Iran as much. Well, I would say Russians are friendly to the Iranian government because they're menace with us and all those things. But the Pakistani government don't like the Iranians. The Turkish government and Iran, through the Ottoman Empire from 16th, 17th century, they had so many wars. Southern Iran against Israel, President of Iran has said, we're going to banish them, we're going to get them out of the map and all those things. And so it is normal for the Iranian government to at least seek nuclear weapons in these matters. Now, also Iranian government in recent years have been so smart that they have spread all these things in different areas. And I know we have satellites, we have spy things and all those things, but we really do not know exactly where are these things are stored. And there's a talk that some of these things have been underground, even this bunker buster bombs that we have would not be sufficient. As a matter of fact, I recently read a study that if the Israelis attack, it's going to be a mess because they need refueling. They need at least more than 150 to 200 bombers to destroy all these facilities that Iran has. And there's a talk that they have between 16 to 20 sites that they are involved in this process. And they have to do refueling. So if they do it, they're going to do a half a job, and then who has to finish the job is going to be the United States. Because we have to get involved, you know, it's inevitable that they're allies. So a lot of people say the reason Israelis in recent years have ratcheted up the propaganda that they're going to go and they're going to do this is to force the U.S. to do it because U.S. has the capability. We could refuel some of those, you know, jet bombers in the middle of the air, go bomb the place. We have enough weapons and enough jet fighters to do these things and so forth. Now, is it right or wrong? That is secondary. You make up your mind. Now, the first question we said, there was yes, no, and then the third one was what? Maybe. And let me tell you why I say maybe that they could pose danger to the world. The study shows that if you are in some group activities and somebody's armed, there's a possibility that some incident happens, some fight takes place, some disagreement, and then the weapon will come out and people shoot each other, possible or not. Like sometimes when I talk to the people who have been victim of crime, they say, if there was no gun out there, my son or my daughter would have not been killed. There would have been fight, but since there was a gun, somebody pulled it out and then. So that one of the reasons that we should worry about Iran or any country having a bomb, that's what their answer is to maybe, is that the more countries have weapons, the more possibility of use, isn't it true? Or some accident, or some problem, or some provocation of some other countries and that. So more people arms, yes. I'm sure most of you know that last year, almost Texas legislature passed this law that you could bring guns to campus and all those things and so forth. And one of the reasons most of us who teach at SAC, including our president, is against it because we thought that it's not like people don't need it for protection, they might need it, but if there are guns available, that there are possibility of accidents, some problems, and that it could cause enormous difficulty. So sure, Iran attains nuclear weapon, then the small countries who are around it, like Saudi Arabia, how about Iraq itself, how about Syria, how about Afghanistan, how about Kuwait, all these countries also said, well, if Iran is going to have, then what? We should have it too. So the expansion of these nuclear weapons is going to cause more trouble. Now, one of the things that I like you to remember, and it's important, I want you to think about it, is this. For years and years, we have been telling our people here in this country that culture of Middle East is backward, that they are basically tribal society, they don't have great civilization, they are no one, they are nobody, they don't have good educational system and all those things and so forth in these matters. And try to, rather than having a good relationship with this country, they have muddied the water. That there's not a good relationship between Arab countries and Muslim countries with the U.S. Isn't true enough, right? As a matter of fact, George Bush, when he was president, he told us that according to the U.S. intelligence, that the Muslims have one target in the world. They want to take over the world and kill all of us. You know, and I thought, they sell Kool-Aid in White House, but it must be a special Kool-Aid that our government drank and all those things. Muslims have been in existence for hundreds of years, and to this day, they can't even manage to be united among themselves, let alone take over the world. Remind all of you that one of the greatest war, the biggest war that has happened in past century was the war between Iran and Iraq for 8.5 years. Million people in each side died. Look at Afghanistan, look at Pakistan, look at Palestine and so forth. So I'm not sure this strategy that all the Muslims are going to get together and they're going to destroy our great civilization, that makes any sense and so forth. I was taking notes that the reason Iran today has a nuclear facilities and project, it was United States in 1967 that we went out there and established the first nuclear site in Iran. The United States of America, this country, went there in 1967. But after 1979 revolution, Islamic revolution in Iran, we cut off with that government. But who took over? Russians, Chinese. Why? Because as you know, nuclear technology and weapons or drugs are the biggest money-making business in the world, isn't true or not? Cash, big money, and brings lots of revenues and so forth. So also remember that if you look at the list of the countries in the world, that who sells more weapons than any country on the world, the number one is what? USA. Russians come second, maybe France third, China is fourth. So more and more these countries. And then we say, we are exporting what? Democracy and all this. So the study shows, in most cases, if these third world countries who are supposedly backward and they don't have enough technology, that they go after these weapons, or basically they gain these things because of what? Western democracies are selling this technology. It's big money. It's a loss of investment and so forth in this matter. So as a result, that is why Iran or many of those countries are looking to build the bomb and so forth. Now, since early 1990s, the study shows Russia and China has been very involved. North Korea government. Also, I read an article several years ago, I'm not sure that is correct or not, that there was this Pakistani scientist that the Mossad, the secret service in Israel, they report that the Iranian scientists, Pakistani scientists, Syrian scientists, and Iraqi scientists, they all met in Syria in a secret meeting, and apparently there was like a class, a training session for all the scientists from these countries to learn from Pakistan and North Korea how to develop what? The atomic bomb, to work on the nuclear bombs and so forth. So what I'm trying to tell you is that even if we try to